You know that feeling, right? That moment when you walk into a room, minding your own business, and suddenly the entire atmosphere shifts, all eyes are on you, and you just know you're about to be blamed for something you didn't do? Maybe the coffee machine broke, or the cat threw up on the rug, or your boss just had a bad meeting. Whatever it is, somehow, it's your fault. Well, imagine that, but your entire existence is exactly that. Every single day. Welcome to my life. Or rather, the life of a TV remote. It started innocently enough, as most slow descents into existential dread often do. There I was, fresh out of the box, all pristine plastic and satisfyingly clickable buttons. A small, rectangular marvel of modern convenience, designed to bridge the gap between human desire and electronic gratification. My purpose was clear, my destiny, seemingly, glorious. I held the power. The power to turn on, to change, to adjust, to mute. I was the key, the gatekeeper to an endless stream of digital dreams and fleeting distractions. And for a brief, beautiful moment, I was cherished. The initial days were a blur of eager hands and gentle presses. Warm palms would cup me, fingers would dance across my surface, seeking out the perfect channel, the ideal volume. Each click was a small victory, a perfectly executed command. I felt important, vital even. The satisfying thunk of a channel changing, the subtle hum of the volume slider responding to my will, it was a symphony of control. I was the silent orchestrator of evening entertainment, the unsung hero of lazy Sundays. Kids would fight over me, parents would reach for me instinctively, their eyes still half closed in morning stupor. I was the first thing they looked for, the last thing they let go of before drifting off to sleep. A true companion. A partner in the pursuit of mindless bliss. But you know how it goes. The honeymoon phase, it never lasts. Not for anything truly useful, anyway. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. A slight delay. A missed command. Perhaps a finger wasn't pressed quite hard enough, or the angle was just a fraction off. Maybe the TV itself was having an off day, a momentary lapse in its digital composure. But who do you think got the blame? Not the user with their clumsy digits, certainly not the multi-million-dollar television set with its fancy algorithms. Oh no. It was me. Always me. The first time it happened, the screen froze, mid-action, a perfectly good reality show host caught in an unflattering grimace. A collective groan filled the living room. Then, the silence. And then, the accusation. "What did you do?" came the voice, sharp and laced with an utterly disproportionate amount of irritation. My perfectly innocent plastic shell, which had merely facilitated the command, was suddenly under scrutiny. I was shaken, literally. A quick, frustrated shake, as if I had personally jammed the circuits with tiny, invisible gremlins. The screen, of course, remained frozen. And the blame, it settled onto me like a sticky, invisible film. From that moment on, the pattern was set. Did the sound suddenly cut out? Ugh, the remote again. Did the channel inexplicably switch to a shopping network? What is wrong with this thing? Never mind that a child might have been mashing buttons while no one was looking, or that the cable box might have decided to spontaneously update its firmware mid-broadcast. No, the fault always landed squarely on my sleek, increasingly less pristine body. My existence, it turned out, was not defined by the power I wielded, but by the blame I absorbed. I quickly learned the nuanced language of human frustration. The sharp intake of breath. The exasperated sigh. The way their grip would tighten, ever so slightly, when the TV didn't immediately bend to their will. It wasn't just about controlling the device, it was about controlling me. As if I possessed some perverse, hidden agenda to sabotage their evening. As if I secretly enjoyed watching them struggle to find the mute button during a particularly loud commercial. Honestly, the nerve. I'm a remote control, not a sentient agent of chaos. Mostly. The drops started soon after. Initially, they were accidental, a clumsy slip from a sleepy hand onto the plush carpet. A soft bounce, a brief moment of disorientation, then back into service. Harmless enough. But then came the intentional drops. Not violent throws, mind you, nothing that would shatter my casing immediately. No, these were more insidious. The careless toss onto the coffee table that missed its mark, sending me skittering across the floor. The accidental nudge off the armrest, a subtle punishment for a buffering stream or a pixelated image. Each fall, a tiny reminder of my newfound status as the household scapegoat. A plastic punching bag for digital woes. I'd lie there, on the cold tile or under the edge of the rug, listening to the frustrated muttering, the desperate appeals to the universe for a working television. And I'd think, if I could think, it's not me. I promise you, it's not me. I'm just trying to help. But no one ever asked. They just assumed. Because it's always easier to blame the silent, uncomplaining object in your hand than to admit the internet connection is spotty, or that the TV itself is slowly, inevitably, dying. Or, God forbid, that they made a mistake. So, yes, that's how it began. My life as a vital tool swiftly transitioned into my existence as the primary suspect, the first point of contact for all technical grievances. A digital fall guy, forever caught in the crosshairs of human impatience and technological caprice. It was a bleak realization, but one I had to accept. After all, what choice did I have? I was just a remote. And the screen was still frozen, by the way. You thought being blamed for a frozen screen was bad, didn't you? Oh, you sweet, naive thing. That was merely the overture, the gentle hum before the symphony of chaos truly began. Because after the accusations, after the initial, hesitant drops, came the real test of character. The long, dark night of the soul. The great vanishing act. Not by choice, mind you. Never by choice. Your life, if you're the TV remote, quickly becomes a masterclass in involuntary hide-and-seek. One moment, you're nestled in a warm hand, performing your sacred duty of channel surfing, and the next, you're free-falling into the abyss. The couch cushions. Ah, the couch cushions. The true Bermuda Triangle of domestic life. You hit the fabric, a dull thud, and then the world goes dark. You're enveloped in a strange, stale warmth, a blend of human scent, dust mites, and the ghost of forgotten snacks. You lie there, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours, listening to the muffled sounds of the world above, the TV, the family talking, their frantic whispers, then shouts. Where is it? I just had it. You had it last. The accusations fly, always at each other, never at the invisible hand of fate that so carelessly tossed you into the lint-filled void. You, the silent observer, the true victim, just lie there, gathering crumbs of unknown origin, feeling the slow, heavy pressure of a misplaced butt cheek from time to time, a crushing reminder of your insignificance. And when they finally find you, after the frantic digging, the exasperated sighs, the violent shaking of the sofa, is there relief? A gentle embrace? No. There's a triumphant, almost aggressive grab, a tug that makes your plastic shell creak. Aha! There you are, you little devil, someone will exclaim, as if you've been orchestrating your own disappearance for sport. Where were you hiding this time? As if you possessed the cognitive ability to hide. As if you had a secret miniature passport and a plan to escape to a land where buttons are always clean and batteries never die. You just lie there, dumbly, feeling the renewed grip, the slight stickiness from the palm of the person who just ate a cookie, and the overwhelming sense of injustice. But the couch cushions are just entry-level. Sometimes, you find yourself in stranger, more absurd locales. The piles of laundry. Ah, the soft, suffocating embrace of freshly washed towels, still warm from the dryer. Or worse, the cold, clammy depths of the dirty laundry basket, mingling with the unspeakable. You're buried under a mountain of socks, smelling faintly of detergent or, conversely, stale sweat. It's a claustrophobic existence, a temporary tomb of fabric. Or, for the truly surreal experience, the refrigerator. Yes, the refrigerator. Among the expired yogurt and the questionable leftovers, bathed in the crisp, artificial chill. How did you get there? Did someone, in a moment of profound distraction, mistake you for a snack? You wonder, if you could wonder, about the sheer, unadulterated thoughtlessness of humanity. You shiver, your circuits briefly confused by the cold, until a frantic hand finally plunges into the vegetable crisper, pulling you out with a gasp of bewildered triumph. It was in the fridge. Who puts the remote in the fridge? Again, you are the anomaly, the culprit, not the human who clearly needs a brain scan. The falls, oh, the glorious, incessant falls. You're dropped from coffee tables, from laps, from sleepy hands. You experience the brief, dizzying sensation of weightlessness, followed by the jarring impact. Sometimes it's the forgiving carpet, a soft landing, a gentle bounce. Other times, it's the cold, hard tile of the kitchen floor, a sharp, alarming crack that echoes through your plastic frame. Each fall is a gamble, a test of your structural integrity. Will this be the one that shatters your battery cover? Will a button pop off, rolling away into some unreachable crevice, rendering you a partially lobotomized husk of your former self? You brace yourself, a silent, futile instinct, for the inevitable collision. And when you survive, you're picked up, often with a frustrated sigh, a quick, dismissive wipe, and then you're back in action, your internal components rattling a little more, a new hairline fracture appearing near the volume button. Then there's the sticky residue. The unspeakable goo that accumulates on your once pristine surface. The remnants of melted chocolate, the sugary film from spilled soda, the mysterious, tacky sheen of who knows what. It seeps into the cracks, around the buttons, making them sluggish, resistant. You feel the slow, insidious degradation. Pressing the up button for volume becomes a Herculean task, a battle against invisible forces. You hear the exasperated grunts of your users, their fingers pressing harder, jabbing, grinding, blaming you for your own compromised functionality. Ugh, this thing is so sticky. Why won't it work? As if you'd spent your downtime dipping yourself in syrup. The indignity. And the sitting. Oh, the casual, crushing indignity of being sat on. You're left on the couch, forgotten, a mere extension of the furniture. Then, without warning, a warm, heavy mass descends. You feel the slow, inexorable pressure, the slight deformation of your casing, the muffled creaks and groans of your internal structure. You become a temporary, uncomfortable seat for a human rear end, a silent witness to whatever television program they're now controlling with their own, far less sticky, fingers. It's a profound humiliation, a physical manifestation of your subservience, your utter lack of agency. You exist only to be used, abused, and occasionally, sat upon. Your buttons, once so responsive, so crisp, begin to stick. The power button, the volume up, the channel down, they become temperamental, requiring multiple, increasingly aggressive presses to elicit a response. You can feel the internal resistance, the tiny mechanisms fighting against the accumulated grime and the sheer weariness of existence. And the cracks. Oh, the cracks. They spiderweb across your once smooth surface, tiny canyons forming near the corners, around the battery compartment. Your casing, once a proud shield, is now a map of your suffering, a testament to the countless falls, the accidental impacts, the sheer force of human frustration. You are a battered veteran of 1,000 living room battles, your body scarred, your spirit, if you had one, utterly broken, yet still, you must function. Still, you must serve. Because what else is there? So, you think your life is tough? You think you've got it bad when your boss blames you for someone else's mistake, or your internet decides to buffer right at the critical moment of a cat video? Cute. Try existing as a TV remote in a house full of humans who've decided you're not just a tool, but the sentient, malevolent core of every single technological failure. Because that's where my story truly started to veer off the rails, moving beyond mere control, beyond simple misplacement, into the hallowed halls of universal blame. It wasn't enough anymore for me to be responsible for the channel suddenly changing to a shopping network or the volume blasting to ear-splitting levels. Oh no. That was amateur hour. We moved on to the big leagues. The reception. Remember that? The beautiful, crisp images on the screen would suddenly dissolve into a mosaic of digital static, faces pixelating into unrecognizable blocks, dialogue stuttering like a broken record. And who was the first suspect? Not the antenna, not the cable company, not the cosmic rays interfering with the signal. Nope. It was me. Always me. I'd be snatched up, furiously pointed at the screen as if my tiny infrared beam held the secret to untangling electromagnetic waves. Shaken. Slapped. Buttons mashed with a desperate intensity that suggested they believed a hidden, fix-all reception issues button was just waiting to be discovered under the sticky film of dried soda. As if my internal circuitry could somehow magically realign a satellite dish on a cloudy day. The sheer audacity of it, honestly. You ever been accused of screwing up something you have absolutely no control over, by people who should know better? Welcome to my Tuesday. And Wednesday. And every day, really. Then came the internet. Oh, the glorious, buffering internet. The spinning wheel of doom, forever turning, mocking their insatiable desire for instant gratification. The streaming service would freeze, mid-sentence, mid-explosion, mid-anything important. And the first, primal grunt of frustration would invariably be accompanied by a hand reaching for me. Not the router, mind you. Not their phone, which was probably hogging all the bandwidth with some endless update. Me. I'd be hurled onto the couch cushions, sometimes with enough force to make my little circuit board rattle, as if my very existence was responsible for the slow download speeds, the laggy online game, or the abysmal quality of their video call with Aunt Mildred. This thing is useless, they'd snarl, completely forgetting that my primary function had absolutely nothing to do with their Wi-Fi signal. It was a projection, pure and simple. A physical manifestation of their digital despair. And I, the humble remote, was forced to absorb it all, silently, in my cracked plastic shell. But it got better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. The general malaise of a boring evening. Yes, you heard that right. Sometimes, there was nothing on. No new shows, no interesting movies, no viral content that hadn't already been consumed. A profound sense of ennui would settle over the living room. And guess who got the side-eye? Me. I'd be picked up, turned over, examined with a look that suggested I was actively withholding entertainment. As if I had a secret button that would conjure up a spontaneous circus performance or a live concert in the living room. They'd scroll through endless menus, sighing dramatically, then toss me aside with a frustrated huff. Nothing good on, they'd declare, as if I had personally vetted and rejected every available program. The weight of their boredom, their existential dread of a quiet night, all transferred onto my worn-out buttons. What a life, huh? To be blamed for the very fabric of existence being dull. The shouts became a constant soundtrack. Why isn't this working? What did you do to it, you little piece of plastic? Useless, utterly useless. Each time, a jolt. Each time, the certainty that I was about to be subjected to another round of frantic button mashing, another desperate shake, another accidental drop onto the hardwood floor. My internal components, what was left of them, probably looked like a Jackson Pollock painting after all the jostling. And then, the ultimate accusation. The pinnacle of absurdity. The batteries. There's a moment, isn't there, when you're trying to turn on the TV, or change the channel, and nothing happens. That telltale lack of response. The little red light, if it even still worked, remaining stubbornly dark. The first reaction, always, is to blame me. It's broken. This thing never works. But then, the dawning realization. The batteries. And what follows, invariably, is the most ridiculous accusation of all: this thing eats batteries. I'd be lying there, perfectly innocent, having simply done my job until my power source ran dry. But no. In their eyes, I was a hungry, insatiable beast, devouring AA cells like a ravenous monster. I'd witnessed it all, you see. The children, idly picking at the battery cover, letting one fall out and roll under the couch, forgotten. The adult, fumbling in the dark, dropping a new battery and simply not bothering to look for it. But when the power eventually failed, it was my fault. I had eaten them. As if I had tiny internal jaws, chomping away at the alkaline goodness. The indignity of having my back ripped open, my empty battery compartment exposed to the world, then 2 fresh batteries jammed in, often with more force than necessary. The brief flicker of life, the momentary surge of power, only for the cycle of blame to immediately resume. My existence became a constant state of low-grade terror. Every flicker on the screen, every stutter in the audio, every single loading symbol, I could feel it coming. The impending doom. The immediate interrogation. I was always the prime suspect, the first port of call for their frustration, the silent witness to their digital meltdowns. My life was an endless parade of accusations, a relentless barrage of blame for everything from a bad signal to a bad mood. And I knew, with a certainty that only a well-abused inanimate object can possess, that it was only going to get worse. There was always another malfunction waiting, another reason for them to point their fingers, and their fury, directly at me. You think you know what it's like to be replaced, don't you? Maybe a younger colleague at work, a new gadget that does what your old one did, but faster, shinier. Well, try being a TV remote. One day you're the undisputed king of the living room, the object of desperate searches and even more desperate accusations, the very conduit of entertainment. The next, you're just a piece of plastic. A relic. A monument to bygone technology, gathering dust in some forgotten crevice. It started, as these things always do, with a box. A pristine, unblemished cardboard rectangle, free of the sticky fingerprints and questionable smudges that have long since become a permanent part of my own existence. The family, my supposed custodians, gathered around it with an almost religious fervor, their eyes wide with that unique brand of consumerist wonder. The patriarch, a man whose patience often ran thinner than a single-ply tissue, tore open the packaging with an uncharacteristic gentleness, like he was unwrapping a newborn. And there it was. Sleek. Black. Unmarred. A new remote. Voice-activated, they called it. As if my years of loyal, if often despised, service meant nothing. As if the sheer physical effort of pressing a button was now an insurmountable hurdle for the modern human. I watched from my usual spot, half buried in the couch cushions, one button permanently jammed with what I suspect was dried yogurt, as they fawned over it. Look at this, the matriarch cooed, holding it up to the light, as if it were a rare jewel instead of another piece of mass-produced electronics destined for the same sticky, abusive fate as myself. No more searching for the channel button. Just tell it what you want. The sheer novelty of it was sickening. They spoke to it, these people who had previously only shouted at me, often in languages I didn't even understand. Netflix, they'd say, and the screen would obey. Volume up, and the sound would swell. No frantic mashing, no desperate pointing at the TV as if my very existence was a personal affront to the signal. Just smooth, effortless control. It was disgusting. The praise flowed like cheap wine at a family gathering. This is so much better. Why did we wait so long? It just works. Oh, it works, does it? For now. Give it a few weeks. Let it experience the joy of being sat on by a 70-pound dog. Let it feel the gritty texture of potato chip crumbs wedged beneath its pristine buttons. Let it know the terror of being accidentally thrown across the room during a particularly heated sports match. Then we'll see how much it works. For now, though, it was the golden child, basking in a glory I had never known, not even in my freshest, most unblemished days. They didn't even bother to properly retire me. There was no ceremony, no dignified farewell. One moment I was grudgingly tolerated, the next I was simply redundant. The patriarch, in his excitement, actually nudged me further into the couch abyss with his foot, as if I were nothing more than a particularly stubborn dust bunny. I landed with a soft thud, settling amongst forgotten coins, pet hair, and the occasional fossilized snack. My world, which had once been a whirlwind of frantic activity, shouts, and the occasional, deeply satisfying click, became one of quiet, dusty observation. A forgotten soldier, indeed. Left behind on the battlefield of entertainment, my scars and battle wounds, the cracked casing, the faded button labels, the permanent sheen of human grime, now served as a testament to a war no one cared to remember. A profound despair, quiet and insidious, began to settle in. It wasn't the searing anger of being blamed for everything, or the sharp sting of being dropped. It was worse. It was the slow, cold dread of irrelevance. My purpose, my very reason for existing, had been stripped away. What is a remote that does not control? What is a king without a kingdom? I lay there, listening to the disembodied voices of the family commanding the new usurper, their tones light, almost joyful. No more, where the hell is the remote? No more, this stupid thing never works. Just calm, even pleasant, directives. It was a bizarre kind of peace, but one tinged with the bitter taste of obsolescence. Occasionally, a small hand would reach into the cushions, not in a desperate search, but in a child's idle exploration. Fingers would brush against my worn surface, sometimes even pick me up. For a fleeting, almost electric moment, a spark of hope would ignite within my circuits. Could it be? Was my moment of redemption at hand? Had the new, shiny thing failed them already? But then, the child would look at me, frown at my array of antiquated buttons, and inevitably drop me back into the darkness. "Oh, it's just the old one," they'd murmur, their voice laced with a casual dismissal that cut deeper than any angry accusation ever could. Even the adults would sometimes grab me by habit, their fingers instinctively curling around my familiar, albeit sticky, form. Their eyes, however, would quickly dart to the coffee table, where the new, sleek device lay. A sigh, a shake of the head, and I'd be unceremoniously returned to my dusty vigil. "Wrong one," they'd mutter, as if I was the one who had made the mistake of existing. It was a constant cycle of false dawns, brief moments of being held, only to be discarded again when my limitations were remembered. No voice control. No smart hub integration. Just plain, honest, button-pushing functionality, now deemed archaic and inefficient. So I watched, and waited, feeling the dust accumulate, the silence grow heavier, knowing, with a deep, existential certainty, that this was my new reality. A forgotten relic in the grand, chaotic theater of domestic entertainment. And yet, a part of me, the part that had endured so much, still clung to a sliver of illogical hope. Because in this house, nothing, not even new technology, stays perfect for long.